with our eminent panelists and experts. And I would like to call Dr. Abu Amani, the director of the Division of Water Science and the secretary of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program Council, giving us some introductory note on the UNESCO-IHP strategy on groundwater and looking at the main objective of the webinar. Dr. Amani, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alice. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues from wherever you are connected. It gives me pleasure to welcome you to this third webinar on the groundwater matters series. As you know, we have been organizing this jointly with the International Association of Hydrogeologists, and I want really to thank IH for the long-standing collaboration we have been having in advancing the challenges world is facing on groundwater. Today's webinar focusing on groundwater for prosperity and investment is clearly an indication of the relevance of groundwater in providing support for development, and also we are looking for this seminar series, of course, as you know, to contribute to the UN 26 Water Conference. Alicia has already alluded some of the interactive dialogue in which we are aiming to provide support. So first, prosperity starts with groundwater knowledge, because there is no prosperity without water security, and water security is not possible without understanding groundwater, because of all the importance, as you know, groundwater plays for water supply, for agriculture, for industry, for ecosystems. And this is where UNESCO-IHP contribute to provide the appropriate knowledge. And as you know, for more than 60 years, IHP has been at the forefront of advancing knowledge on groundwater. When I say knowledge on groundwater, we are looking at all the aspects related to assessment, to mapping, and also to the transboundary nature of groundwater. And as you know, we have an initiative called Internationally Shared Aquifer Resource Management Program, ASAM. And in the ASAM, we made tremendous progress in identifying really the transboundary aquifer system worldwide. It's also important to mention all our work we have been doing now with UNICE on the indicator, SDG indicator 6.5.2, and where also we are leveraging expertise available all across our network, including the network of centers, chairs, but most importantly, also we are mobilizing the young people energy, creativity through the groundwater youth network, as you know. Second, investment in groundwater is much more than drilling wells and building infrastructure. The discussions within the UN 2026 Water Conference clearly indicated that we need capacitated institutions, we need data. Those are the foundations for any sustainable investment we may have regarding water. And here also we need to emphasize on the needs to clearly have monitoring of the resources, particularly groundwater, but most importantly, having it open access. So moving forward, we believe that having open access on data related to aquifers is paramount. The other also point I want to highlight is also the issue related to private sector, because we know that private sectors have been working also on the issue of groundwater. So we are also working with them. The third point I want to highlight is on the groundwater must become visible in investment decisions. As you may recall, we published this famous report, Making the Invisible Visible, and I believe that it gave a lot of momentum in raising the profile of groundwater worldwide now, but we should continue this work together. And in this regard, we believe that advocating for more investment when it's come to groundwater is paramount. And we are counting, of course, on all our work we are doing with UN Water so that we can mobilize all member states in order to make this invisibility of groundwater and investment to make it visible also. So today's program reflects this vision. Alongside the scientific community, we are honored to hear from high-level representatives of Spain and South Africa, the co-chairs of the 2026 Conference and Interactive Dialogue on Water for Prosperity and Investment for Water. We will also hear from the private sector with representatives from Danone, who will demonstrate how responsible groundwater stewardship can support long-term prosperity while creating values for both society and also business. So to sum it up, groundwater is central for prosperity, and we need to raise its profile when it's come to investment. We need to advocate so that the government can put appropriate means for making the investment on water more visible for groundwater also. So I want to thank you once again, and I'm looking forward for excellent webinar today. Thank you very much. Back to you, Alice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amani. I would like now to have some feedbacks and some introductory notes from Theodora Sox, from Dr. Sox, the president of the International Association of Hydrogeologists. I mean, the largest associations looking at hydrogeology and groundwater. Please, Theodora.
Thank you, Alice. Distinguished colleagues, dear partners, ladies and gentlemen, as president of the International Association of Hydrogeologists, IAEA, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this third webinar. And special thanks to Alice Aureli for coordinating and moderating these webinars series, to UNESCO-IHP, Dr. Abu Amani, of course, and to all panelists who present and explain why groundwater matters. The aim of this third webinar, as we heard and know, is to explore the economic value of groundwater and integrated water resource management, which are key elements for prosperity, and also to discuss how strategic investment can help realize the full potential of groundwater resources for sustainable economic, social, and environmental benefits. Groundwater is essential as a source of drinking water, food security, green energy transition, as well as for the ecosystems. It has to be managed in such a way, including transboundary aquifers, that all sectors and habitats can prosper in all regions. Despite its strategic importance, groundwater remains underrepresented in policy framework and investment strategies. It is important that policy and decision makers and investors understand that investing in sustainable use of groundwater is often a long-term process, and if not done, can cause pollution, over-abstraction, which results in very long groundwater regeneration times, if possible at all, public and environmental health deterioration, and generally requires much larger investment than avoiding the cause of the problems. It is well known, as Dr. Amani already mentioned. However, it still has to be emphasized that investing in long-term monitoring, data collection, and data sharing and capacity building is crucial to support sustainable decision-making and advancing prosperity. IAEH visits 13 commissions and networks with more than 5,000 members in 135 countries, published 16 strategic overview series, which provide information on key interactions between a variety of sectors with groundwater resources. IAEH Technical Insights series delves deeper into more scientific details. The latest paper in this series, prepared by the IAEH Commission on Groundwater Quality Commission, is on antimicrobial resistance, which is a growing global groundwater challenge. It is clear that further developments, investment in affordable screening and treatment solutions will be necessary to tackle this insidious contamination. For example, last but not least, I invite you all to IAEH Annual World Groundwater Congress taking place in Budapest, Hungary in September, where in addition to others, a plenary session will highlight the importance of keeping groundwater at the heart of the 2026 UN Water Conference. This session aims to send a strong message to policy and decision makers, ensuring that groundwater is fully considered in planning the water agenda beyond 2030. Thank you, and I wish you a successful and productive webinar.
Thank you, Teodora. Thank you very much. Let me give you some indications about, from these introductory remarks from the UNESCO-IHP and the IAEH, how the program for this webinar will go on. I mean, we will have with us 5 eminent panelists. We hope to have the opportunities to have a Q&A with a participant. And we will then go for a wrap-upping and closing with 2 international experts. And I have the pleasures to have with us, as IAEH and UNESCO have a very great important network of youth, water-related youth experts. We have with us our rapporteur, Rabiha Hassan, who is a member of the UNESCO Groundwater Youth Network and a GIS specialist at the UNDP in Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much for her support in making a report of this important webinar. Having said that, let's come in the real context of this webinar. And we have with us Concepcion Marcuello Olona, Dr. Marcuello Olona. She is the coordinator of International Water Affairs at the Directorate General for Water at the Ministry for the Ecological Transition and the Demographic Challenge of Spain. And together with China, Spain has, let's say, the responsibility, it's true, it's a responsibility for the conductions, the preparations, and the development of the interactive dialogue on water for prosperity. Concepcion, I really would like to give you the floor and listen from you about the work and let's say, the view on the groundwater in this conference.
Thank you, Alice, for having counting on Spain to share sharing the views on the ID2 on water of prosperity, which is one of the technical segments of the UN Water Conference in 2026 in Abu Dhabi. And thank you also to the IAEA and UNESCO-IHP for convening this meeting. So I would like to to give you a view of which are the work we are doing now after some months of preparations, and what we have done up to now, and what we are planning to do in the coming months. And I will do that very much focused on the role of groundwater. So let me begin by recalling that Spain has identified three priorities that have guided the process of building the transformative initiatives we are called to propose for the conference. These priorities are not abstracts, and they are the result of months of consultations, technical analysis, and policy dialogue with multiple international actors, and also having taken into account the inputs coming from the IHP and the IAEA as well. So the first priority is to move towards full and effective implementation of integrated water resources management in line with target 6.5 of SDG 6. This priority recognizes that prosperity will only be possible if we have strong, inclusive governance frameworks that are able to coordinate sectoral policies that remain fragmented today. Integrated water resources management requires that all resources, including aquifers, be considered in a coherent and strategic manner. Second priority is to drive greater water efficiency and circularity, promoting solutions that increase water resilience and reduce pressure on natural systems. Digitalization, innovation, and unconventional resources are essential, but their impact will be limited if they are not integrated with sustainable groundwater management, which is the strategic reservoir of millions of communities. The third priority is to mobilize the necessary instruments to properly value water in the economy, finance, and investment. Prosperity requires that water, including water we don't see, be treated as a strategic asset, incorporated into national accounts, risk models, and investment decisions. So these three priorities are the basis of the transformative initiative that we, Spain, presents to the community, that have presented also recently in New York. And in this webinar, I would like to focus, as I said before, to focus on how groundwater plays a decisive role in shaping this initiative. This initiative has been working now with our Chinese colleagues and also with the partners, the main partners, which have a role in our interactive dialogue. So according to these priorities, we are thinking of organizing a first initiative based on a global alliance for integrated water resources planning and management and fair allocation. This initiative responds to an urgent need to break institutional silos and to move towards integrated management that incorporates all resources, all sectors, and all territories in a basin. In this effort, groundwater is critical. They are the resource that sustains the supply of thousands of cities, and the Global Alliance proposes integrating hydrological information into allocation systems, strengthening the governance of aquifers, promoting regulatory frameworks that guarantee sustainable abstraction, and ensuring that fair allocation of water explicitly includes the rights of those who depend on groundwater resources. So this initiative is also articulated with other global efforts, as the Madrid Compact, the Integrated Water Resources Management Action Hub, the Initiative of Global Water Partnerships, the World Bank's Country Water Compacts in their Water Forward initiative. So as a second initiative, very much related with the second priority I mentioned before, it would be a global initiative on smart water resources, water efficiency, and circular economy. The prosperity requires efficiency, innovation, and solutions that allow it to do more with less. This initiative integrates digitalization, the circular economy, and unconventional resources into a coherent and scalable framework. Here, groundwater is, again, a critical component. Water efficiency cannot be limited to the surface. It requires advanced aquifer monitoring systems, managed recharge technologies, integration of reuse and desalination to relieve pressure on aquifers, and circular economic models that reduce extraction. So in a world of prolonged droughts, aquifers act as natural buffers, stabilizing supplies and protecting the most vulnerable communities and economies. And as the third initiative, we are proposing a global initiative on the proper valuation of water in economics, finance, and investment. Prosperity also requires that water be properly valued, not only as an economic resource, but also as a strategic asset for stability, investment, and sustainable development. In this area, groundwater is probably the most undervalued resource on the planet. Their contribution to the agricultural economy, industry, urban supply, and climate resilience is rarely reflected in financial frameworks. So the initiative seeks to integrating the value of groundwater into national accounts, incorporating water risk into financial decisions, incentivizing investments in sustainable infrastructure, including aquifer protection and recharge, and mobilizing public and private capital to close the SDG 6 financial gap. So as conclusion, groundwater is a foundation of prosperity in view of ID2. And prosperity, we think that will only be possible if we manage water in an integrated, efficient, and fair water. And in this vision, groundwater is not an accessory component, it's the foundation of part of the very foundation of global water security. So we hope that Spain could finalize this framework of initiatives with our colleagues. We are also promoting with FAO a platform based on the Aquastat platform in order to promote a better information system in cooperation with other partners, other UN agencies. And we very much look forward to having your inputs and your expert ideas coming from science in order to give good shape to this initiative and to fulfill the priorities we think that are not only Spain's, but are global. And also we are looking forward to going on with the consultation process up to the very first beginning of our Abu Dhabi meeting. So thank you very much, and very much look forward to inputs and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Conchita. I mean, we know, and I particularly experienced how much groundwater is studied, assessed, and is important in Spain. So we cannot have a better advocate for groundwater in the interactive dialogue about prosperity than yourself and Spain, the great Spanish specialist on groundwater resources. With these, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Matlata Moloko. He is Acting Director General of Water Resources Management of the South African National Department of Water and Sanitation in the Republic of South Africa. He is interim chair and focal point of South African National Committee for UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. He will give us a presentation on the importance of groundwater for prosperity in South Africa. Please, Dr. Moloko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alicia, for this opportunity. I'm just going to flight some few slides. I have about 8 slides that I want to share with my fellow panelists. I'm just trying to share.
Yeah, while you share, I mean, of course, I would like to highlight that South Africa is a country that is responsible for the other interactive dialogue on investment for waters. And definitely we really need to highlight the importance of having attention for in investment for groundwater, in particular in regions where groundwater is the prominent, the most important water resource for life, for ecology, for environment, for people, and for prosperity.
Thank you very much. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, in South Africa, groundwater is quite a very important resource because it's part of the water mix and it comes very handy when we are to mitigate for climate change. And also because while we have a lot of infrastructure where we have built dams in the rivers, we don't have more sites where we could site new dams. So groundwater is quite a very important in that regard because is the only resource that we think is there to be further developed. The current water use is estimated at between 3,000 to 4,000 million cubic meters per annum, and mostly for domestic purposes and socio-economic development. Agriculture remains the main user, with about 60% of the groundwater allocated to agriculture, followed by mining, water supply for domestic and industry. Currently, about 12% of the population remains underserved, especially in the rural areas. And groundwater is earmarked as a proper resource to cover the gap that we have of increasing the coverage in terms of supply to domestic water users. We have developed a strategy called National Groundwater Strategy, which was developed in 2010, and we updated it in 2017. The goal is to ensure sustainable, accessible, cost-effective groundwater supplies for human survival and socio-economic development, while maintaining the environmental services that groundwater is supporting in an integrated development approach. The strategy consists of 12 themes, and more important from those themes is governance, which happen at 3 levels, national and local. The framework to illustrate that is shown in the national, regional, and basin level strategy actions. And those are mirrored also at the local level. While we're planning to develop groundwater resources in the country, we have seen that groundwater is becoming increasingly important for urban water supply as well. As currently we have about 22% of towns who use groundwater as the sole source, and about 34% where is combined with surface water, giving rise to a conjunctive water use. And in summary, 76% of all communities, both urban and rural in South Africa, depend on groundwater as a source. And our early planning has shown that assessing future water requirements and developing additional water will help the county in terms of ensuring that we deal with the water shortages. And we also highlighted that groundwater is quite important from a development point of view. There are some mining companies that are solely relying on groundwater for their development, and they are very big corporates, but they are only using groundwater. And as I've indicated on the slide, it shows that even though they are allocated certain limits for them to comply with, they make sure that this groundwater as a resource is used efficiently and effectively, because the abstraction are still well below what their water use license limits are. And then we also are mindful of the fact that sometimes aquifers can be abstracted, and then you have very little left. So we have a project called Managed Aquifer Recharge, where we inject a certain amount of water that we are able to harvest during the floods, and also when we're doing the recycling into the aquifer, so that we can enhance the aquifer hills, also ensure that we have security of supply when surface groundwater surface water is not readily available. And also we do that to improve the water quality, because some areas you may find that the water quality of groundwater is not that good. But when you artificially inject surface water, you are able to improve the groundwater in that regard. So, and it's also very important in some areas, because we use this method to prevent seawater intrusion, especially in those cities or areas that are close to our seashores. And then we also do that in terms of enhancing the schemes. You have a scheme that without groundwater, they wouldn't be able to supply water to the water, sufficient water to the water users. So with managed aquifer recharge, you are recharging the aquifer so that the scheme can have sufficient water to supply the communities. And then we also share our groundwater with our neighbors, and therefore we have what we call transboundary aquifer management, and we share this with our neighboring countries. And we have run a number of projects in the past to make sure that these transboundary aquifers are managed in such a way that all the riparian states are benefiting from this resource. And South Africa proposed a resolution on groundwater, which was subsequently adopted by the UNESCO Executive Board at its 215th session in October 2025. That demonstrates how we value this groundwater, and we see groundwater as playing a very critical role in the prosperity of South Africa moving forward. I think that's all from our side, and thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And we feel that the groundwater must also get the attention it deserves, as it's a very important strategic resource that we need to make sure that it's visible to all water resource managers, and is factored into the day-to-day implementation of integrated water resource management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moloko. And as you just said, it was a great achievement to have the recognitions of all member states of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program, and UNESCO particular executive board on the presentations by South Africa of these recognitions for groundwater. And so thank you very much to South Africa for taking the flag high for groundwater. We really very much count on you to have groundwater and investment at the conference this year. We go to some other horizons with Dr. Lilian Hello. She is a civilian engineer. She is a Franco-Brazilian. She is a water expert, and she contribute to the NGO Women Way and WFEO, and she has head of partnerships at Suez. She has more than 20 years of international experience in water, sanitation, infrastructure, and sustainable development. And she's actually promoting innovations and partnership, capacity building, and inclusive solution for climate resilience and the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal. And I'm very happy to have Lilian with us, because until now we didn't talk very much about the importance of human rights and the right to access to water and sanitation. And I would like really to highlight the importance of groundwater, that is the main supporter of food security, water for people, for the planet, for prosperity, and indeed to secure that human rights to water is considered if we continue to protect our aquifers. Lilian, your presentation will be on groundwater for prosperity in Senegal, why investing in aquifers means investing in people, planet, and future generation. Well, Lilian, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, dear colleague. Since Dakar in January, we are working parallel in several events to push the groundwater, but not alone. You need to link it with others factors like prosperity, investment, and the women's are the key role in the agriculture and some countries. In Senegal and in many parts of Africa, groundwater is not only water resource, it's the development resources. And when you talk about investment, that we need to emphasize that point, because it supports drinking water supply, agriculture, food security, public health, economic ground, specific by women. And then today I would like to share why investment in the groundwater are often among the smartest investment that we can make, and its lesson that Senegal can bring in the discussion that during the United Water Conference in 2026. The first point that I wanted to talk for investors and the women that are listening to us, and just to start that, I watched the two first webinars, and I would like to congratulate, because they talked, when you talk about people, they talked about that. And it's not so easy to not repeat some key points, but it's important to replace here. That the groundwater in Senegal, in particular for the some rural areas, they support the rural and urban water supply, irrigated agriculture, livestock production, small and medium enterprises, and the ecosystem services. Without reliable aquifers, and many communities inside in the rural, semi-urban, and rural areas, you are faced to serious social and economic vulnerability. Groundwater in Senegal now it's creating jobs, improving health, and alleviates poverty. That is the minister that are focused with the women's linked with the solution that is a priority from the government from Senegal, and emphasize for the next conference to link it with all solutions. Then, for example, for the deniers region, a clear illustration that is Denial region, one of the Senegal's most productive horticultural areas. The groundwater allows farmers to grow vegetables throughout the year. Then they can have for the food for the community and to export. This demonstration that investing in the groundwater is also investing in agriculture, economy, opportunity, and food security. Another topic that I discuss a lot with experts is about the climate adaptation solution, because climate change is increasing droughts, rainfall variability, and the pressure of the freshwater resources. Groundwater acts as a natural storage system. Unlike surface water, aquifers retain water a long period, as all experts here, I don't want it to become on that, but it's important for the finance financial people understand how that can impact on the climate change. And for Senegal and many African countries, you are very linked with Director Matala Moloko that explained that 76% of the community in South Africa depends on the groundwater. How it's the most effective natural-based solution in climate resilience. Then protecting aquifers today means protect communities against the future climate shock. But why more investment needed? For women, that you can see how the technology, how the data could improve the local community and put women face in the front of the solutions. Many aquifers are still poorly understood, then secure a long-term prosperity investment is needed. First, for in knowledge, we need better hydrological studies, and all the association here is very, very important for that. And the last thing that I would like is to emphasize here, that is the prize that Senegal won on the People First, the PPP success story. To conclude, I would like to highlight a recent achievement that perfectly illustrates how investment, innovation, and partnership can deliver sustainable water service. That in 2025, Sen'Eau, the private operator responsible for urban water service in Senegal, was recognized as with the best infrastructure awards of the world. Why? Why they highlight the importance about people's first in the public-private partnership. That the Sen'Eau experience demonstrates that good governance matters, long-term investment matters, partnership matter, and water security and human development go hand in hand. It will offer a practical example of how the People First PPP approach promoted by UNESCO, United Nations Economic Council of Europe, can contribute to achieving sustainable development goals while improve lives. In Suez, our work, we have so many technologies to track groundwaters and the pumping system in real time to prevent all over extraction by analyzing pumping data, predictive maintenance, and the long-term resources planning. In Senegal, my conclusion is it's support drinking water, food production, economic growth, climate resilience, women's leadership, and the region cooperation. We are here preparing the 2026 United Nations Water Conference, and you must recognize that investing in groundwater is not a simple investment in a resource. It's investment in prosperity, resilience, peace, and the well-being for future generations. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Lilian. Definitely, it is quite a complex, very complex issue, and well, let's continue in this water stewardship approach related to also the private sector. We have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Nathalie Dorflinger. She is the director of the watershed science and stewardship in Danone. She was also the president of the French committee of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program until 2024. She's a senior hydrogeologist and a water science leader with over 30 years of experience, spanning from water science, watershed management, climate change, and water stewardship strategy. And it's exactly about the non-water stewardship that we would like to listen from you, Nathalie, why water matters for Danone and for us and for local communities. You have a presentation, so please give us, take the floor.
Thank you, Alice. So with great pleasure, it's a great pleasure for me to take part of this webinar and to share the point of view of private sector and specifically about Danone. So why groundwater matters for us as a company, but also for local communities. I mean, it's not just a matter of our own, it's not just our own business, if I can. Okay, here we go. So just few key figures about Danone. I know you probably know about it. I mean, it's a dairy company, worldwide company, and with different categories, dairy product, but also special nutrition and also waters categories. And you have some key elements there. And what I wanted to highlight it, what are our operational water footprint. And this is 60 million of cubic meters in average per year for 151 operation sites. And out of these 60 millions, I mean, almost 2/3 are coming from groundwater that are managed directly by our teams, but some where it's municipal water, part of it is also groundwater. So groundwater, we are dependent of groundwater for our business, for our direct operation, but also for our sourcing, but I will focus on the operation here. And it matters for us. So many decades, I will say. It's not just a matter of sustainability strategy, but it's starting several decades, almost 30 years for our waters categories, and developing also some tools in order to equip and to increase the awareness of our colleagues. And even if we have several hydrogeologists at Danone, but it's also necessary to address not only the source of the water we manage, but also the watersheds. What are the challenges inside of the watershed? How to have efficient use of the water in the factory, through the process, and up to the wastewater. So it's what we developed, and we developed a tool to equip the people. But it's called Spring, and this has been updated with new versions last year, and that it has been released at the World Water Week in Stockholm. It's a guidebook with action cards, more than 150 action cards in different streams. One is about water resources with different level of maturities, and where groundwater finds its place. And in the frame of the sustainability strategy of Danone, there is 3 pillars. One is about nature, and one where water finds his place with some key performance indicator. One of it is regarding the preservation of watersheds in high water stress area by 2030. Most of them where groundwater is there, or there is a constructive use of water, but it's a concern almost 50% of the sites of them. And so what is our understanding and our approach is from science-based knowledge for co-designing and to value creation with the local communities. What is the starting point is to know what is the status of the resource of the water, surface water and groundwater. And we have to say that in some cases, we have a lack of understanding of this groundwater. There is general consideration, but it's necessary to have additional investigation, or public data are not available or doesn't exist. So it's necessary to investigate, to get data from geology to a conceptual model, geophysics, and so on, in order to identify what is the status of the water in terms of quantity, in terms of quality, where are the vulnerability, how to predict or to understand the forecast of the water resource in the future for different scenarios. So usually we are working with academics on this in different countries, and this is key to rely on science for us. In the second step, we will have some diagnosis baseline to understand what are the challenges really at the territory around the factories and the watershed level, and to identify with local communities, with the help and the contribution of either academics or NGO, to design and co-design some solution for preserving the water in different area. It could be upstream, it could be up from midstream to downstream, focusing on nature-based solutions and starting with a pilot and engaging also on the local water governance. And this is a key to share the knowledge, to increase the awareness, and this is really important. And the third part is to impact the assets, to monitor it, and to readjust the project or to scale up the solution. Give you two examples here. In Indonesia, so we have more than 20 factories there, mainly on water category, but also on special nutrition. We are mainly on a volcanic hydro system, specifically on Java Island. And yeah, as I say, I mean, we started with quite unknown hydro systems. So there is few data available, so it requests some field work, but also some review of review paper about the andesitic system, and being able also to set up some reservoir model, and this is done, and it has been done in Indonesia. We supported 3 PhD since almost last decade, and also a postdoc, and always in collaboration between a French university and Indonesian one. And in this way, with this knowledge, we can identify where to act, where to preserve the water resources in the upstream part, in the recharge area, or in the midstream. Different solution is possible, depending on the challenge. And here is an example of what's happening and what we did with the implementation by the NGO SND in the west part of Java, addressing 3 parts: the sustainability, to change or to adapt the practices of agriculture, but also to increase the livelihood of the local communities and to support their community development, and continue the effort on the strengthening the watershed governance. Finally, just an example on Mexico. Mexico, we are also on a volcanic area in part of the countries. And here, for example, in the upper Lerma River basins near Toluca, where we operate, and we have also water company here, factories with Bonafont. We identified and we work with the data that are available from either the university or over Colagua from the government. And we can identify here that there is where the recharge area, but also to identify that this system is overexploited since many decades due to the importance of transfer of the groundwater to Mexico City. So we need to address some of this issue. We will start and initiate some actions, but we will not be able to solve everything all by our own. It's a long process to invest, and we decided to have 2 types of actions. Here is one that I present regarding the preservation of the actions with the local communities who are in charge of the maintenance of the forest in order to reduce the erosion and facilitate the infiltration, for example, and also on the water agriculture efficiency. And finally, to conclude, I will say that groundwater matters to a local community. I mean, it's invisible, of course, but sometimes even if it's visible, and I can tell you in Indonesia, in some foothill plain, you may have some confined aquifer when the water is free flowing if you drill a wells, but it's not managed properly, so all the water is getting out, and in fact the pressure is diminishing. So there is all, it will create some social impact because I mean you will have, for the farmers it will be necessary to require some energy to pump the water, as it may be necessary and because they are afraid when it's becoming invisible, when they don't see the water getting out of the ground, for them it's disappear. So it takes time to take the science inform and actions, and to build this trust between the partners, to deliver some impact, and also to measure and to protect. And so what I wanted to say, it has also been said before. I mean, of course, this is with this type of protection that we can ensure prosperity on the long term, to improve the livelihood of the farmers or the people living there. And this is this is for all the watersheds, but it's key to rely on some information and to invest on groundwater knowledge, because in many countries, I mean, this is there is a lot of things to do, and so we contribute and try to make it more visible and to share our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathalie. Thank you very much. It was very interesting to have this overview in different areas and different regions of the Danone work on groundwater. And I hope that the private sector will bring this knowledge about the need for a better, investment on all the aspects of aquifers management, groundwater resources governance, etc., at the conference in December, because as you just said, no one of us can do really great achievement alone. I mean, you worked with the UNESCO-IHP program for many years, so you know very well that we need the UN, we need the private sectors, we need the experts, we need the practitioners, and much more different way to highlight and educations and capacity, of course. For protections of groundwater resources. Let's hope to listen from the private sector at the conference. To go to the other panelists, I would like to start saying that one of the main partners of UNESCO and many other UN agencies, but in particular institutions, scientific institutions around the world, environmental institutions around the world, in particular on management studies and governance of transboundary aquifers, that is the other big question mark for when we talk about groundwater resources, so human rights, sharing of groundwater amongst the different countries, etc. I mean, definitely one of the main partners is the Global Environment Facility, GEF. And I have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Claudette Spiteri. She's currently the project manager the project manager of the International Water Learning Exchange and Resource Network, IWLearn, founded by the GF and implemented by the UNESCO Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission at UNESCO. Well, IWLearn serves as the knowledge management platform for the Global Environment Facility International Water Portfolio. And in this role, in particular, Dr. Spiteri coordinates the activity for the GF International Waters Groundwater Portfolio. She will talk about building capacity to unlock groundwater, IWLearn's support to the GF International Waters Portfolio. And well, definitely, I think this is another voice investment on groundwater that we would like to listen, Claudette, at the conference in Abu Dhabi. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon from Paris here. So let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, I need to do one more thing. So do you see my full screen now?
Perfect.
I believe you do. Thank you. So yes, I wanted to start by first thanking the IAH and the colleagues here at IHP UNESCO for thinking and inviting IWLearn to this very important webinar. As I think already been introduced, so my name is Claudette Spiteri. I'm the project manager of IWLearn. And I will briefly talk to you about what IWLearn is doing in supporting the GEF International Waters portfolio when it comes to groundwater capacities and knowledge management. So Alicia already told us IW Learn is actually an acronym. You see the full term there, but essentially what we do is we offer a platform for knowledge management for the GEF portfolio. So the projects that are funded by the Global Environment Facility. So it's a service that we give specifically to the international water, which is synonymous to transboundary. And it's built on three pillars. The first one is very much this knowledge management, experience sharing, and communications. A second pillar that is on capacity development, specifically on transboundary water management. And a third pillar on networking, building networks and partnerships. So currently, the GEF IW portfolio is composed of roughly 125 active IW projects. That is to say, these are projects in transboundary water bodies, so be it freshwater, so riverine, marine, as well as some of them, 21% of them, focus on groundwater and aquifer-related projects. Just the last point, IW Learn is also a project, one of these projects in the portfolio. It's in its 5th phase, started as back as 1997, and it's implemented by UNDP and UNEP, as Alicia already said, executed by IOC of UNESCO. So who are our primary audiences? So primarily, it's very much these projects, the portfolio, as you see there in the middle, which most of them are regional, some of them are global, but most of them, or if not all of them, they work with national counterparts. So essentially, we work at 3 levels, be it the national, the regional, and the global. And of course, it's a network of agencies, what we call the GEF agencies and the GEF Secretariat. So that composes the primary audiences. However, there are also a number of secondary audiences that you see over there. So be it the international community, institutional actors, academia, as well as private sectors. A few words about the groundwater portfolio that is funded by the Global Environment Facility under this international waters focal area. So most of these projects, of course, they deal with groundwater and aquifer management, as well as with the conjunctive water management of, let's say, managing surface water and groundwater collectively, which was already mentioned earlier in an earlier presentation. So far, the focal area supported 14 out of the 468 transboundary aquifers globally, which is a relatively small number. However, just to acknowledge that not all of these transboundary aquifers are such located in countries that are eligible for GEF funding. When we look over the different GEF cycles, just to mention, we just started what we call GEF 9, so the 9th replenishment cycle. So if we look back at cycles 1 to 8, actually only 26 of projects explicitly target aquifer systems, and collectively the investment was of around 146 million. If we look in more detail at what did these projects look into, essentially we see an evolution from limited focus, let's say, on specific technical stuff, to more integrated, more strategic management, as well this conjunctive water use, including also aspects of water quality, and a lot of more focus in recent projects on institutional capacities and governance, in particular in transboundary aquifers. I already mentioned this evolution that we see, and especially more recently, GEF played a very important role in supporting, let's say, agreements, first of all, shared understanding, and later on, let's say, leading to establishing agreements and treaty processes, for instance, in these 3 particular aquifers that I mentioned there. As well as if we look into the projects in the portfolio, we see also very key examples of how these groundwater projects also promote youth engagement, gender mainstreaming, local community participation. And I list here a case in point, one of the ongoing projects in Africa, Groundwater for Deep Resilience, that is essentially facilitating a pan-continental youth forum on groundwater management. So this was a brief introduction on primarily on GEF and the groundwater portfolio, which is essentially our primary audience in all the activities that IW Learn facilitates with respect to building capacities, and as well as I have to say the aspects of knowledge management of the outcomes of these projects. So I just wanted to highlight 3 things here in the interest of time, which I think are pertinent to today's discussion. First, to inform you on an upcoming publication that we've been working on, which is specifically looking at conjunctive water management and looking more into the experiences and the lessons learned specifically from the portfolio, the GEF portfolio. The second is to share with you some of the activities that we've been doing under, let's say, the aim of establishing dialogue, specifically on groundwater and conjunctive water management at different scales, so regional scale and global scale, and the importance of, let's say, learning from each other, not only the successes, but also learning from each other the challenges. And the third point is about the twinning exchange program that also IW Learn set up in support of promoting and facilitating exchanges primarily between GEF IW projects. So as I mentioned, we're currently very much in the final phase of finalizing and hopefully publishing very soon. I would say by the end of our summer, this publication should be out there. A dedicated publication on conjunctive water management. So looking into what the portfolio can share with respect to the lessons learned, especially when it comes to advancing conjunctive water management. So what started off as a compendium got more elaborate, and now we also worked on what we call the typological framework, in which we present, let's say, an analytical framework of organizing what are the interventions on the ground through the projects, but what are the drivers that are essentially these interventions addressing, and what are the challenges when going for such interventions. So that's very much became our first objective. Also to look at the state of play of, again, through primarily the GEF IW projects on the extent of conjunctive water management. So how much of it is spontaneous and how much of it is actually planned management. As I mentioned, this is very much the type of resource that, especially when implementing projects on the ground, is very useful to have these synthesized lessons learned and good practices, especially in view of future project design now with the start of this new GEF 9 replenishment cycle, as well as some recommendations on how to move forward. Here, just an overview of the projects that we looked into, 16 projects in total. What you see, a lot of these projects are actually taking place currently in Africa, which is, I think, in itself good news. If you are interested to know more about this project, you see here the numbers there. Those are what we call the GEF ID, which you can easily look up on the GEF project database, as well as on the IW Learn platform. So what we did with this 16 projects, essentially the 3 steps, of course, initiation, just trying to refine the objectives. A lot of efforts went into this stakeholder engagement, so essentially talking to the different projects, and not just the projects, but also the beneficiaries and the partners involved, and try to consolidate and extract all these practical lessons from the different areas, different regions. And then this was consolidated in this assessment that is coming up. And that's where we felt the need to organize this information, because it was essentially very rich to have this exercise. And that's where we also developed what I refer to as the topological framework, which I think is a very essential addition to this analysis, that is organizing, let's say, the interventions in the middle, the drivers that essentially create the need for interventions, depending on where you are, the situation, how much the community is dependent on groundwater, etc., and then a reality check on what the challenges are on the ground. I will not dwell too much. I just want to essentially give you a sneak preview of what is coming up. I will not go through this. I just invite you, once this publication is available, to download it and take the time to go through it. We extracted quite an interesting set of lessons learned when it comes to project design, what you should keep in mind when you're at the initial phases of a project. Of course, building on what is there already, whether you should first collect all the data possible, or first start with a demonstration that it is relying on limited amount of data. So all these aspects are essentially the outcomes of this exercise, which I think it's very useful for implementation on the ground, both in project design as well as the implementation part. The aspect of being realistic, especially when working in transboundary systems, being realistic of what can be achieved within a given time frame. It's long, it's complex, and therefore I think this is very important from a project implementation point of view. And also, what would be also interesting to highlight here is the aspect of anchoring the project outcomes into institutions. I think that's the only way to make sure that project outcomes, they are sustainable. So I think you can read all this in what's coming up. I'm going a bit too fast here. Yes, so I move on to the second point that I mentioned. So we believe on the importance, on the power of dialogues. So as part of our work plan, we organize a series of dialogues, be it at the regional and the global level. And that's that. And that's where you have this exchange both of expertise and knowledge, but also it's a powerful tool also for building capacities. So 2 examples here. The first dialogue, we integrated, or we collaborated with UNESCO-IHP, that is a long-term partner of IW Learn and UNESCO-IHP when it comes specifically to conjunctive water management. And that took place already in 2023 in Geneva. And the second such dialogue took place last year, and there we collaborated with SEDEC GMI, and it was integrated as part of the 7th SEDEC Groundwater Conference. Just examples here, I think these type of events, certainly they are very, very fruitful, very helpful in highlighting what works, what doesn't work, what doesn't work, and how different projects, different organizations overcome the challenges they face. The conclusions and key outcomes of the first global dialogue was very specific when it comes to capacity building and sharing of experience, what is needed, and you see the list there. And soon after, as IW learned, we set up the twinning program where we dedicated some exchanges specifically to groundwater. And that's, I move to the third point that I wanted to share here. So very recently, we set up a number of twinning exchanges between different, primarily projects, but of course also the partners and the countries that are beneficiaries to these projects, specifically dealing with groundwater and with conjunctive water management as well. So the first one was back-to-back with the MET program Groundwater Symposium here at UNESCO earlier this year that brought together 4 such projects. A second one, more recent, was an interesting exchange between the Nile Basin Initiative and the SADC groundwater community under the framework of a memorandum of understanding that they set up, but also, let's say, through the JEF-IW projects as the engine. And another twinning exchange that took place under the framework of the G4DR there. It was very much important also to mobilize the river basin organizations within this dialogue in order to discuss data exchange protocols and so on. So these are examples of events that we believe they are very important for building capacities and enhancing exchanges. I just wanted to finalize. This is actually taken from the strategic directions of JEF9, which very much, especially in JEF9 now, as I mentioned, this new cycle that started beginning of July, so it's very fresh for the next 4 years. There is a very renewed and bigger focus on groundwater for this coming cycle, of course, recognizing the importance of groundwater within also the context of climate change and adaptation. I will not read it, but I highlighted there the keywords, the importance, the strengthen the national level, as well as or in parallel or before even the transboundary cooperation. And other key terms that come there. I just wanted to put focus not only on the groundwater quantity, but more importantly, the groundwater quality aspects. Finally, I just invite you to visit our platform. There are plenty of resources from the beginning from the late 90s, I would say. They're still available there, so it's very rich. And we also have a dedicated thematic hub to groundwater and conjunctive water management, which presents a one-stop shop to any resources, information, that concerns groundwater and conjunctive water management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudette. Well, let's say that an important issue is also to finance and invest in science, because we need good science and good scientific outputs to influence policy. And we know very well how, investment in academia, in producing science, science for water, it's now decreasing around the world. And without science and scientific consistent outputs, definitely it's difficult to put together policies, governance, and even innovation. So one of the actions that we are taking also with the UNESCO very now is to put science in several events at the conference this year. Having said that, well, we don't have a lot of time, but we would really like to take 1 or 2 participants' questions. Let's see if I can get it and share with you. There is a question by Raya Stefan about However, if you want to bring this issue at the global scale, what practical actions can be envisaged? Who wants to answer to Raya? Maybe François Bertone, you would like to answer. I mean, practical actions to bring groundwater governance up front.
Thank you, Alice. I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer to this one, but yeah, well, we know that this partnership it has really to bring together a series of actors, and you were mentioning, Alice, you were mentioning science. We know that scientific partners are central to it. Investors, and not only private investor. I well understood what Natalie was saying about what some private actors might do, but we also know that in some areas where these private actors are not present, we need strong public investment, and we have to work on that. And on the other side, so the science on one side, the public investment on the other side, the economics on the other part, because and it was mentioned in Theodora point when she was envisioning all the risks, the economic risk linked to the antibiotic resistance, for instance. This is something that where we need also partnership with the economics that tell us how much it will cost when it will come up, so that we can invest in advance and we make the proper investment. So I'm not sure there is one answer to Raya, but we know that if we want to work in groundwater development, we have to see all these aspects. And Abu was mentioning it's not only one open governmental data. It's all the information on groundwater management that is to be open here.
Yep, I have another question. This is for Natalie. How can academics in Sub-Saharan Africa partner with Danone to train graduate students and also deliver impacts for sustainable groundwater use in those regions? Natalie, I mean, how can academics in Sub-Saharan Africa can partner with Danone? There is a process.
I mean, it's yeah. There is some different representation of Danone, or what we call country business unit in Africa in different country. So this is one key point on tree. But if I can make the link, you can also contact me, and I can try to organize on how to connect with some colleagues from the general secretary of our different country business unit, and this is one possibility. In some other country, I mean, globally, what we do, I mean, yeah, it's always at the local level that there is connection with stakeholders, and this is something that takes time to build, and we don't just take the first academic, first university. I mean, it is something that is on the long side. It's a long journey to work together and to learn from each other on this type of journey.
Thank you. Now we have really to go to the wrap up and to the conclusion. We have Marie-Amélie Pétret, the Dr. Pétret, senior scientist in hydrogeology at the French Geological Survey, the BRGM. She has a PhD in hydrogeology, and she's also working very actively in the IAEH Luna network. And I mean, I already spotlight François Bertone, groundwater expert and senior specialist, former senior specialist until a few days ago at the World Bank, leading the groundwater-related activities. And in particular, thank you very much, François, for having led the 2023 World Bank Economic of Groundwater report. That was the first really important World Bank report on groundwater. Thank you very much. Marie-Amélie and François, the floor is yours. I thank you, everybody, and you close it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Alice. And as we close this very dense, it was really dense webinar. Let me leave you with very few key messages. First, I would like to echo Abu's call for open access to groundwater data. Groundwater remain invisible partly because the data are inaccessible, and open, reliable data and strong science, you were mentioning it, Alice, are the foundation of sound governance, of better investments, and of effective cooperation. So if groundwater is to deliver shared prosperity, the knowledge about it must be shared as well. Conceptions remind us that one of the Spain's priority is to fully integrate groundwater into water management policies. But this should be a global priority. The reality is that surface water can no longer be managed without considering groundwater. Groundwater sustains river flows during dry period. It supports economic ecosystems. It buffers the impact of drought and climate change, and it provides a strategic resource when surface supplies become unreliable. Managing surface water effectively means understanding and managing the groundwater that sustain it. Only then can we build resilient water system in a climate change, in a changing climate.
Thank you.
The examples shared by Matlala from South Africa and Lilian from Senegal demonstrate that with strong institutions, long-term investments, and sound strategies, groundwater can become a cornerstone of water security and resilience, delivering tangible benefit for people and economics. And Nathalie and Claudette remind us that achieving groundwater security requires collective action. And that maybe answer partly to Raya's question. From the private sector commitment to stewardship to international cooperation on shared transboundary aquifers. Today's discussion has confirmed that groundwater is far from that hidden resource. It's a strategic asset for resilience, for economic development, peace, and shared prosperity. Achieving this vision will require better data, better governance, and stronger partnership. With this, it's my pleasure to hand over to Marie-Amélie, who will introduce the Women in Diplomacy Network, a timely reminder that effective water governance also depends on inclusive leadership and empowering the next generation of women in water diplomacy. Marie-Amélie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, François. I'm pleased to present the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, both as a proud member of the network and also because one of our panelists today, Lilian Coelho, is also part of this community. So the network is a growing community that has evolved over time. It began in the Nile Basin in 2017, followed by the establishment of a second sister network in Central Asia, Afghanistan in 2021. And what brings us together is the network's global strategy launched in 2022. And the network's mission is to accelerate gender equality in transboundary water-related decision-making, with direct positive implications for peace and security. And since the global strategy was launched, the network has welcomed new communities from North America, the South Caucasus, and Southern Africa and beyond. A few words about membership. So the community has grown over the years. Membership is built through active participation to network events, and you can see the geographic distribution of members as of May. In terms of activities, this is a snapshot of some of the most recent work done by network members and partners. Ahead of the UN Water Conference, the network has also organized the Water Diplomacy Symposium in Dakar in January, prior to the high-level preparatory meeting. We also had strong engagement with partners in Dushanbe back in May, and we are looking forward to upcoming events in Stockholm and the Water Diplomacy Symposium in Abu Dhabi. It will take place the day before the UN Water Conference. And you can already join the LinkedIn community of the network, reaching, I think, 10,000 members now. So with that, I'll stop here. We're running out of time. So thank you again to all the panelists and participants for an excellent webinar. François, over to you.
No. It's Olivia closing, I guess.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for participating. Yeah, and the recording will be ready on the YouTube channel of the IEH.
We will go on YouTube with all the PowerPoints and you can look again and listen again. Thank you, everybody. And well, see you in Abu Dhabi with Groundwater. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.